Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Thursday, January 22nd, 2026. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning Five and Change, joined as always on Tuesdays and Thursdays by Garrick, Hodge, and Mark Porter. We are kind of putting last season, is it already last season now? I figured it was Monday. In the rearview mirror, the Fighting Mendozas pull it off. The Big Ten goes for three in a row. By the way, that trumps the old SEC argument. That always used to be the argument for me. The third team and the fourth team they had over the Alabama, Georgia. They no longer have that. Good to be kings in the Big Ten. We're going to talk about transfers today because I don't know if you heard the sound of minstrels yesterday or saw that flashing light in the sky or the bat signal. Garrick, Ohio State has added a punter.
Yeah, it didn't quite merit the reaction that the kicker did, whereas I kind of joked that if you read the comments on Bucknuts from the Connor Hawkins story, you would have thought that Ohio State landed a three-time NFL MVP to come in and play for the Buckeyes. But no, still nonetheless some excitement. Former Houston Christian punter Brady Young is the young man's name. He'll have 1 year of eligibility. And the thing that is most amusing to me is that you know that meme where the man gets a Christmas present, he's wearing a purple shirt, and he receives another purple shirt that looks exactly like it, and he's just sitting there jazzed and happy to receive it. I make that joke because Joe McGuire, Ohio State starting punter from a year ago, and Brady have the exact same punting average from last season. And 42.3 is the punting average for both of those young men. And I would assume that this guy's coming in here to try to win a starting punting job, and they're honestly pretty similar players. And by that, I mean that Young's career at Houston Christian was defined by reliability and power. He averaged 42.3 yards, as we already said, on 68 attempts with a lawn of 66 yards. He flipped the field, and he was known for his hang time. So that's what Ohio State's getting here. I would assume that Joe McGuire's the favorite to retain that starting punting job, but a lot of people wondered why Nick McLarty never really got a shot. From what I understand, it was because of the inconsistencies. Like, you never know what you were going to get from him. Sure, he had a strong leg, but sometimes you might get a shank of a 29-yard punt, and then other times you might get a booming 55-yard punt with a lot of hang time. You just never knew that. And you also just couldn't be consistent. Whereas with Joe, sure, he didn't have maybe the strongest punting leg you've ever seen, but you knew that he was going to get you 40, 45 yards every single punt. So people wanted a kicking competition. They wanted a punting competition, and, well, seems like we have it.
Homecoming of sorts. He was a punter at Cincinnati for 4 seasons. Perrysburg, Ohio native. Mark, Perrysburg, Ohio, known for special team stars, correct? I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Yeah, deep dive. We're going into the weeds for that one.
Anyway, so there'll be a competition. There is no video of him kicking it out of a stadium, so I don't think hopes will be quite as high as the last guy. Probably shouldn't have let that video get out in terms of building up expectations. Speaking of expectations, we are going to kind of dive deep here on the transfer portal and what they've gotten so far. Before we do that, Garrick, I noted that there's only 24,000 kids still in the transfer portal. Oh, I exaggerate a little bit. Only a little bit. It's an extreme number. It's literally, I think, over 3,000 or 4,000 kids are still in the portal, meaning there's some roster spots to be filled. And I've told you guys, you can follow the transfer portal in real time. And I mean, it turns over pretty quickly. There was a time there when every time you hit refresh, you would get, so you can go to 24/7 Sports, hit transfer portal, and get most recent transfers. I consider myself, in fact, it's my job, a recruiting nerd. There are names going up there now, pages and pages. I have never heard of anybody. This is the bottom edges of the roster being filled out. Not to besmirch anyone doing that, but it's deep. It is deep as they fill out the back end of the roster. Do you think Ohio State is still a player in the portal? Do you think there are guys they are targeting? And if you could also weave in the being eligible for practice deadline that is coming up, so we kind of have a sense of where we're at. I think you have to be on the team by Friday to practice in the spring, but you can help me out.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I do have to do a double check, but what you said makes sense. I think it's mostly it's a university self-imposed deadline that you got to be imposed by the 23rd to enroll in spring practice. Got to double check on that. That's what it's been in the past from what I understand, but could they maybe extend it for a day or two if they have someone on campus they really like? I'm sure they can get that paperwork all figured out. But to answer your immediate question, are there still guys that they're going after? I think there might be one or two. I mean, you got an offensive line from Dartmouth coming in tomorrow for a visit. I think that they still could add another maybe 1 to 2 transfer players somewhere along those lines. They'll probably want another body for the defensive line. But in terms of guys you're really going to get really excited about, I think that ship's kind of sailed, and which is why, as we'll get into it now, I kind of wrote let's rank these 16 transfers in terms of their potential impact for next season. I thought that would be a really exciting piece to get into. And I thought, should I maybe wait until the weekend to write it? Maybe there's another edition or two. But frankly, I'm not expecting, like, for example, I'm not expecting another Quay Rousseau to just magically come to Ohio State from the transfer edition. Now, if there is another guy like that in the portal, maybe we'll have to readjust our expectations. But I think all the fun, fancy impacts for transfer portal editions are done. Do I think Ohio State's quite done? Probably not. There's probably going to be some more rotational depth type pieces added in the next couple days to weeks. But yeah, I would think that most of this transfer class is probably done right now.
Here's how we're going to do this. I think this is the best way. So we did the offensive transfers video on Tuesday. We've got the defensive guys here. We're going to go through Garrick's list of the total group, and then Mark will finish it off by giving you the specifics on defense. I'll put the link to the offensive transfer video in this story. So if you need to do both, you'll be able to redouble your efforts there. The question is, before we go, what about the offensive coordinator? That is not I have not heard of anyone from outside the building that is like a primary candidate right now. So I think they're doing either a very good job of keeping it under wraps, or what I think is more likely is you've got to wait for the NFL dust to settle here. If you've watched the NFL in the past or followed it, lots of jobs being filled, lots of names you've heard being considered for Ohio State positions in contention for NFL jobs, which is kind of cool. If you consider the fact that, they've hired Matt Patricia, Bill O'Brien, Chip Kelly to these jobs here. Those guys were NFL head coaches. So we got to wait for the dust to settle. I know there was a lot of talk of maybe bringing in Brian Daboll as the offensive coordinator. My understanding is he's going to have a real shot at becoming Buffalo's head coach, but we'll go from there. Anything could happen. And no one knew Bill O'Brien was coming. And I think even fewer people knew Chip was coming after that. So we will be on it when it kicks in. However, let's get to the transfers. Garrick, you can take it any order you want, 16 to 1 or 1 to 16, and you can apply whatever emphasis is necessary. The floor is yours.
Yeah, well, I think this is going to work out in terms of our video segment, because my top 6 transfers are all on the defensive side of the ball.
Boom.
So this worked out really well. But I also went in reverse order for the story, so we might as well start there. And to just set the tone for everybody, I ranked this 1 through 16 in terms of their potential impact for next season only. So if these are guys with multiple years of eligibility, sure, I'm not taking 2027, 2028, what they could potentially be into those seasons into account. It's what have you done for me right now? What could you be for me right now, next year ranking only. So having said that, number 16 is former Maryland and UCLA quarterback Justin Martin. I believe Justin Martin's a really nice addition to Ohio State's quarterback room from a depth perspective. But having said that, something would have to go terribly wrong if he's coming into Ohio State playing meaningful action. That would be an injury to Julian Sayin, and Tavian St. Clair wouldn't be able to win the backup job, or heaven forbid, there's 2 injuries. So knock on wood that Justin Martin provides great mentorship to the quarterback room, provides some stability there, but also unless he's in some quarterback sneak packages, you're not going to see him a whole lot. Now, number 15, I have lawn snapper Dalton Riggs. And this is a guy who is probably going to play, but As much as I say lawn snappers are people too, damn it,
Mm-mm.
the general fan usually only knows a lawn snapper if he messes up.
I am a long snapper, so be careful. Tread lightly.
I said they're people too.
Shout out to Jonathan Duff. My son played Pee Wee football. We were the only team that could run the shotgun effectively. We ran it all the time, and we got a helmet sticker. Darren, my son, was the quarterback, and we got a helmet sticker for no fumbles. We always did that. My guy was Eastern Kentucky's long snapper, so he took it and ran with it. Big up to Duff.
So number 14, I have Dominic Kelly, and I felt really dirty ranking him this low because this is a guy that Georgia coaches and fans alike were really pissed to see get out of their building. So I'm really excited about this guy's future. I think he could be a cornerstone in the 27-28 Buckeye seasons. But like we said, Dan, we're ranking for next year alone. And frankly, I think that he's going to be a little bit behind on the depth chart to start the year. Now, maybe that changes by week 6. But nonetheless, that's why I put him number 14. Number 13, I have Cam Calhoun. And I have him slotted in a little bit higher because I think he's going to start out higher on the depth chart. Just based on that he's shown that he can done it at Utah 2 years ago. Now, whether he stays there is entirely up to him. I see him as kind of a rotational player behind guys like Jermaine Matthews and Devin Sanchez, but we'll see if he can maybe even expand on that role. Now, going kind of rapid fire, number 12 and number 11, I have the 2 tight ends, Mason Williams and Hunter Wilson. You could really kind of pick and choose any order you wanted here, but I went with Hunter Wilson a little ahead of Mason Williams only because Hunter's proven that he can do it at the Big Ten level, so I gave Big Ten experience a little bit of a nod, and I think both of their games are going to translate well to Ohio State, but I know that Hunter Wilson's can because he's done it against Big Ten competition.
That is really going to be just like Kazmarek and Claire. You can slide them right in there. Go ahead.
Yes. Number 10, this is kind of where things get really pick your poison, I guess if you want to say. I put Florida running back Jacoby Jackson. Last year he battled injuries, didn't play a whole lot, but he delivered a strong 2024 campaign of more than 509 yards and not even on 100 carries with 7 rushing touchdowns. I think he could be a nice change of pace running back, kind of that power blend to Bo Jackson and Isaiah West. I think he could be a better version of what C.J. Donaldson was supposed to be this year, from my understanding. Number 9 is Kyle Parker, the LSU wide receiver, and I really wanted to rank him ahead of UTSA transfer Devin McEwen, but I gave McEwen the nod here for 2 reasons. Well, 1 reason, really. But I wanted to give Kyle the nod because you already know what Cortez Hankton's going to get from him. They know each other very well, and he's had success in the SEC and has compiled more than 300 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns last season. But why I ranked McEwen a little bit more ahead, and that is a reminder that's a guy from UTSA with 1 year of eligibility, is because he has more flexibility to rotate between the slot and as an outside receiver, whereas Parker played primarily out of the slot last year for LSU. McEwen took 400 snaps at UTSA from the outside and more than 100 snaps in the slot, whereas Brandon Innes seems pretty established at slot receiver next year for Ohio State. So there we go. All right. Now, number 7. I knew I was going to get grief.
We're at 8.
Oh, Devin McEwen. Well, all right. I can talk a little bit more about Devin McEwen. He's got 1 more year of eligibility. So, again, like you see on the screen, it's certainly a make-or-break year for showcasing his pro prospects. This is a guy that's established more than 700 yards with 8 touchdowns last year and delivered a Pro Football Focus overall grade of more than 75, which is more above average in my estimation. And listen, I think this is a guy that Mark showed the film on Tuesday. He can flat out play, and it's no secret that Ohio State's wide receiver room has lost some depth due to the transfer portal, but you still have Jeremiah Smith and Brandon Innes that are already established. You've got premier prospects like Chris Henry Jr. and Jerquaden Guilford, plus Phillip Bell, who I think is outstanding, plus Kyle Parker is going to be there for competition. So I think Devin McEwen could play a large role into this offense, but seeing significant snaps for a guy like him coming from the competition level he played, it's not necessarily a guarantee.
That said, I'll go on record. I think he's going to finish second on the team in receptions. Go ahead.
Okay. Hey, before we go to 7, why do you think he's going to finish second on the team in receptions?
One, I just think he's underrated. Two, based on what you said, he's very versatile. 3, he's very experienced, and also UTSA. If you watch them, I love their offense. He's gotten to play all over the field, and he's been clocked at 4.3. So I think he's a really good player. I just think he's a really good player. When I watched all the film, he jumped out to me. And like I said, Jeremiah draws so much attention that, we're not always going to have Carnell Tate on the other side, but I do think McEwen is going to thrive against second corners, etc.
Okay. All right. Well, moving to number 7 is kicker Connor Hawkins. And like we said, based on the reaction from Buckeye fans once Ohio State landed his commitment, I don't think I would have gotten any flack if we moved him to number 1 on the list. But anyway, I put him at 7. And I think he deserves to be this high because he's proven that he can be a long-range weapon on special teams. He was 3 of 4 from 50-yard field goals or more last season, including a game winner against Kansas State that was 53 yards with 34 seconds remaining. So this guy has all the talent, all the leg in the world, and not that this matters for the purpose of this write-up, but like we said on Tuesday, this is a guy that could be here for up to 3 years if he finds success. 3 years of eligibility remaining. So certainly a massive addition. But I didn't put him any higher than 7 for 2 reasons. One, it's kind of the NFL draft mind in me, that positional value. I can't justify putting a guy more than number 7 on this list. But more importantly, this is a guy that's from Texas, went to a Texas-based school. Can he make 53-yarders in Columbus when it's 20 degrees outside in November? I'm sure he can, but we don't know if he can do it yet. So there's still that kind of what if that goes with about him, but he's a young player. And listen, I'm just as excited to watch him kick 50-yard bombs as you guys are. So I hope that the game translates well, and he can probably move up a few spots when we re-rank these guys after the spring and make me look dumb.
Note to Connor, make your first kick. Do you want to start the here we go again mentality around here? Like, you'll hear a collective sigh from the state if he shanks one. So just make your first kick, brother.
All right, so now we're going 6 through 1, which is all defensive players. So, Mark, do you want to incorporate video into here, or do you just want to do that after we get through all of them?
We'll let you go because my video starts with your first player, so I would kind of ruin your Christmas present.
Okay, all right. Number 6, I made Earl Lettle Jr. I wanted to rank him higher, but I just thought that he was going to end up being a nickel at Ohio State, replace Lorenzo Styles Jr. And while I think he can have a lot of success there, he was primarily a free safety and a box player for Florida State last year. And while he did have some slot cornerback in his game, he only played there for 65 snaps. And yet I think that that's going to be his best position at Ohio State, just given the other talent around him and what Ohio State's added in. And we'll get to that as this list goes on. But I ranked Earl as high as I did because, quite frankly, he's a ball hawk. 2 forced fumbles, 4 interceptions. This is a guy that can cause just mayhem in the slot. And really from 6 on through 1, it's a list that you can really start dreaming on of, all right, where can Matt Patricia put these guys to get the best out of his defensive scheme and replenish the first-round draft pick talent Ohio State is losing on that side of the ball. Now, number 5, I have defensive line John Walker, who everyone knows from the recruiting cycle a couple of years ago. He was a priority target for Ohio State, stayed in Florida because he got a little homesick. And just like Dan always likes to say, the Ohio Mulligan program, well, sometimes that Mulligan program extends to Texas, Florida, California, and other primary states as that. Now, John's 5th because as vital as a true run-stopping one technique is to a defense, I don't necessarily think that it gets any sexier than number 5 on the list. As vital as it is to the success, you're not going to see him show up in the box score every week. He's going to do a lot of the dirty work. He's going to handle double teams. He's going to clog the middle, close running lanes. And I think he's going to be vital to ensuring that Ohio State has success on early downs, first, second down. Don't keep them on schedule, push them back, force them into 3rd and longs. So, and he's done it at UFC for the past couple of years. So that's why I'm as high on John Walker as I am here. But given that you're not going to see him tally 7 sacks next year, I couldn't feasibly rank him any higher than that.
Garrick, technically, John Walker does not fall into the Ohio Mulligan program because he's not an Ohioan. He falls into the Don't Napalm the Bridge program, which is when you finish second place to a guy, you go back, and these days, you're kind of like finishing 1.5. See Caleb Downs. Go ahead.
All right. We want to move to number 4, Mark. Christian Allegro, the Wisconsin linebacker. Now, I think some people were surprised that I ranked Christian as high as I did, mostly because the linebacker room just looks so talented and loaded next year. When you factor in guys like Peyton Pierce, you factor in guys like Riley Pettijohn, you factor in guys like TJ Alford. These are just dudes that the linebacker room's loaded. James Laurinaitis is clearly cleaning up on the recruiting trail, right? But think about it this way. Ohio State got into a really tight recruiting battle in the transfer portal with Texas. And as we know, Texas spares no expense when they find guys that they really want. And Ohio State got it done to get this guy. And I think part of the reason why James Laurinaitis loves Christian so much is because he played against Ohio State. And I'm pausing because it's just an astounding feat. He broke his hand against the Buckeyes in the first quarter, and yet he still returned to the game and made an impact.
With a mitt.
Yes. I mean, that's just the type of guy that fans are going to fall in love with, that kind of toughness, right? I rank him as high because I would be surprised if he wasn't a starter, and where he lines up is not necessarily set in stone. I could envision him lining up as a traditional linebacker. I could envision him lining up on the edge. I could even see him playing defensive end, as crazy as that sounds, for a couple snaps here and there every game. Why? Because he's a prolific pass rusher when he's given that opportunity. He had a pass rushing grade on Pro Football Focus of more than 80, which is outstanding. And he racked up 4 sacks in 10 games, even though he wasn't always asked to pass rush a lot. That wasn't his primary job. So when you look at this guy, you are potentially bringing in a pass rushing weapon at linebacker. And yes, the linebacker room is loaded, but I know with this guy, I think he's going to be a weapon, and I think he's going to start for Ohio State. I am very confident in his ability.
He seems like a Patricia pick. And by the way, if you look at his height and weight and stuff, and like I said yesterday, Ohio State could be around another 100 years and never have 2 linebackers on the same team like Sonny and Arvell, but he does fit that height, weight, not the speed, combination there. So I can see Patricia going out and getting himself a chess piece. And like you said, beating out Texas for it is a score.
So the next 2 guys are kind of in similar boats. And by that, I mean, you have to preface them with if healthy, right? Because both have battled injury problems the past year or so in their careers. Now, number 3 is Quay Rusaw, the edge rusher from Alabama. That was a package deal with someone else we might get to in maybe a spot or 2. But Quay Rusaw has gone everywhere from a stand-up traditional edge to an outside linebacker, depending on the scheme he was used at Alabama. Given his frame and skill set, I think he's a perfect fit for Matt Patricia, and he could deploy him as an outside linebacker or traditional edge rusher, as we said. And if you factor in his recruiting ranking in high school, he's a former top 65 prospect in the country. So this is just a guy at 6'2", 243 pounds that you're just dreaming on. In 2024 for Alabama, he was disruptive. He forced turnovers. He did enough that every time he got on the field, he flashed and he created high expectations for himself this year. Unfortunately for him, despite a strong start, he started 3 of the first 4 games for Alabama and then gets hurt against Georgia in September. He doesn't come back and see the field until late November, and then by then he's kind of cemented as a rotational player, which is kind of why he's looking for a fresh start. But this guy stays fully healthy. If he's deployed the right way, I think this guy could be a potential game changer for Ohio State.
Yeah, gifts-wise, their defensive coordinator said, in a room of freaks, he is the freak. So hopes are high.
Number 2, and I struggled with this one a lot, Dan, because I think there is a very compelling argument that you could put Mr. Terry Moore number 1. And the only reason I didn't put him number 1 is because you have to preface with if healthy.
Right.
So I think it was fair to give the eventual number 1 player the benefit of the doubt there. But you just talk about this guy and you think about his potential and you think that he's going to reunite with Matt Guerrieri, who recruited him to Duke in the first place, and there are no shortage of reasons to be bullish on him. He missed the entire 25 season due to injury, but he should be healthy enough to play for spring ball, so he's going to be ahead of the curve already coming into Ohio State. And the last time we saw this guy in a football field in 2024, he was the highest graded Power 4 safety in the entire Power 4 by Pro Football Focus. Now, he's going to have giant shoes to fill. He's going to have to replace Caleb Downs, even though you can't replace Caleb Downs. But this guy offers an upside of being the best safety in the country. This was also a guy that was a ball hawk. He had 4 interceptions. He recorded more than 70 tackles. And when you watch him play and you think that he's being reunited with Matt Guerrieri, who knows how best to use him, yeah, you're going to see a little bit of a downgrade, if you will. I don't want to call it that, for losing Caleb Downs, only because, I mean, it's Caleb Downs. It's one of the best safeties I've ever seen play at Ohio State. But I think this guy could be really damn good. Exactly. But this guy could be really damn good, Dan.
Yep.
Okay, number one, if you probably didn't take a total genius to figure it out that it was going to be Alabama defensive tackle James Smith, or former Alabama defensive tackle James Smith, I should say. But here's the top spot because he plays a major position of need, defensive tackle. He thrived at 3 tech, could feasibly play 1 tech if needed. He has a lofty billing as a prospect in high school as a top 45 player in the entire country. And he's coming off a career high season where he started 12 games for Alabama, made 26 tackles, 6.5 tackles for a loss, 2.5 sacks. Now, any player on this list is going to have some flaws, right? There's usually a reason why they're available in the transfer portal. They're not all 100% the perfect player. If they were, like a Jeremiah Smith, they usually don't leave for, they make it a priority to keep them, right? But having said that, this is a guy that's ranked in the top 10 prospects in all of 247 Sports' transfer portal rankings. I believe he was number 9 with all the transfer additions that came in, was formerly number 7 when he committed to Ohio State. But, I mean, this at
top defensive tackle.
Oh, yeah. At 6'3", 297 pounds, he has the size, he has the tenacity, he has the scheme fit that Matt Patricia and Larry Johnson are looking for. And, again, the biggest flaws on him, if you will, is that he self-admitted that he needs to refine his work habits a little bit more. But all that really reminds me of is Tyleek Williams, like a guy that also self-admitted, like his first early years in college, that he needed to find better ways to keep himself on the field. He needs to find better ways to make impacts. And I mean, I've seen this blueprint before where you give a uber talented defensive tackle to Matt Patricia and Larry Johnson, they're going to get the most out of him. And if they get the most out of him, I think you're looking at a potential first-round draft pick next year.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's an impressive haul. And I think you can see that they've kind of handpicked some guys to fill some spots, which is going to go very nicely. Mark, how would you like to do this? You want to just pull up the video now and get rocking?
Yeah, Garrick, that was great. And it's really cool because I was watching film of every single one of these guys. We got 5 plays of every one of them, and you could pull the video up now. And I was like, oh, okay, I do rankings. Garrick had to rank these guys. And as I was going along, the film's going to back up what you were saying about a lot of these guys. And I think found some great highlight clips. People are going to get excited about what they're seeing. The 297-pound guy with an explosion, wearing number 23, it makes him look more athletic. I mean, he looks like a linebacker wearing number 23, but I think he's going to be a penetrating defensive tackle. I think if he gets the edge or a shoulder on a guy and the pursuit down the line there, very good player. No problems with him being a number 1 guy either. The next player we're going to talk about is the safety. I think this is the last play here. Okay. Boy, that was a heck of a play. I didn't know.
23 does throw you off, though. I'll agree.
Yeah, I did not know how good this safety was. We talked about him, a couple of weeks ago on the podcast. But as I got into his highlight tape, I think I gave him 6 plays because he had 6 plays that I'm like, oh my, I didn't know he could come off the edge like that. I didn't know he could come up and run support like that. I mean, he's going to lasso guys and be physical. He's got a long body. He covers ground. There's film of him just absolutely hog tying guys and being
what
a
I
sure
like.
tackler. And of course, you guys alluded to the over the top pass coverage. I didn't even put in the 4 interceptions. I was so impressed with him coming out of the secondary to do the dirty work and come up on one-on-ones in the flats. I mean, that's a sure tackle. So
That was
okay.
nice.
Yeah. And then Quay, like you talked about him in a room full of freaks, he's a freak. Yeah, he comes down here and plays defensive tackle, and he's got man strength. I mean, when you see him lock onto some of the tackles, but flip side that, there he is dropping out in pass protection. No, he's on a safety in pass protection or pass coverage, but he can get it done. And then shedding blocks, that was a great example of a big tackle. He just locks out the arms, bounces off of them to change direction. In 5 clips, this kid displays enough. You could turn off the tape after 5 clips and be like, I'm good. I know what I'm seeing. And that's kind of what recruiters say. I only need 5 plays. When you guys said pass rusher, I was like, oh, wait till they see the film I put together for this guy. I mean, he comes through here and blows up that full.
Oh, yes.
Isn't that the Bo Jackson play?
I was just going to say I'm having flashbacks. Go ahead.
Look, here it is. You know, he does that a few times on this film. So we got one of those guys. We got an old linebacker who's got the experience, you know, who's going to come after the quarterback. And, of course, he's good in the run game. But when I only get 5 clicks, there he is doing it to a tight end or tackle. I mean, he delivers a blow. I mean, saying he played with a broken hand just strengthens what you believe that he's a tough guy. Playing off the block and containing, yeah, he's technically sound.
Sudden.
Yeah, John Walker, like you said, when we recruited him out of high school, we did a Buckeye in the Sky, and I loved his high school tape. He's one of those guys that we kind of got fascinated with, and when he went to the other school, we're like, wow, we can't believe he didn't come here. The way he's running out there to the flats, his size is a one technique to stuff up the hole. He really does have a complete game where – yeah, he's the one technique probably, but he could play 3. I mean, he has a little activity to him. Excuse me. But you see him get after the quarterback, which is something we're probably going to have to ask him to do. He's going to be the run stuffer. You said it in your film. How did Earl Little get so far down in the rankings? That just tells you what we had above him. Definitely some pass defense stuff here in the clips I picked, but I liked him in the run game coming out of the secondary. You're going to see him blur into the picture here. And he'll submarine you. He had a couple plays on here I didn't get to put in where it's very eerie of what you just saw. Coming out of the secondary, taking out guys. I think he has linebacker size, too. Watch this play coming up on the goal line. I mean, physicality out of there. I wouldn't be surprised like they did with McClain last year if he's the guy that's coming up in the box with downs. Cam Calhoun, I said it on the podcast last week. At high school, there was a time where we didn't know who was better, Jermaine Matthews or Cam Calhoun. They both were really – yep, they were teammates at Winton Woods. This highlight tape could have went on for days. I mean, this kid is athletic. He made a bunch of plays. He's got quickness. They use him in press. They use him backed off and over-the-top coverage. The aggressiveness on bubble screens. You're right. If this is our 3rd corner right now, boy, we got a nice one here, and there's the top of the screen. I think it's nice that he's coming back to the Ohio Mulligan program. This is exactly what we're talking about. And you know what? I think he's been humbled at Alabama, and I think he got his experience. And here he's at the top of the screen. This is a very nice addition. He's no different than Aaron Scott or Bryce West to me now with all this experience. He figures his older those guys. Yeah, he can basically be a 1-for-1 trade with whichever one of those guys you lost. And then I like what you said about Dominic Kelly. Like, you know, Georgia was really upset they lost him. This is the only kid we didn't have college tape on. We went to his high school tape to check him out and got a couple plays of him here. And boy, there's a long player on film. The rundown speed you see here, so you see he's got some juice to him. He plays a little bit of man-to-man coverage in high school. This is off man right here. But I liked what I saw out of him on this high school tape. I wish there was a few plays for college just to match what we've seen with everybody else. But Garrick, I tend to agree with your rankings. I think you had some tough calls or some 50-50s that, you know, either way, you could have picked them, and there's no one's going to scratch their head. But what a haul on defense. I mean, we lost some people, and it stung. But when you really dig into the tape of the experience and what you're getting, big time. And then the last thing I'll say is I'll plug us. For the last 3 weeks, we've been showing little clips of these guys. We've been talking about them. The last Monday or Tuesday with the breakdown on all the offensive players. If these aren't household names for the Bucknutters by now, you're with the wrong site, because I feel like I know these guys inside and out. I won't have to go into spring ball wondering who they are. I feel like we've really done a good job of doing hey, welcome to the team. We know who you are, and now let's Brady Young, the punter. Brady was a assignee last night, so he didn't make the cut. But yeah, that if I would have put him last on that list, they may have put us to sleep.
Yeah, my one thing on there that's very interesting is that I do think Calhoun coming back to play with his high school buddy does mean something. When you talk about being like humbled and coming back to your roots is a stretch, but I do think that he's like, you know what, worked for my guy here. I'm going to go get some of the same tutelage. And Earl Little was unquestionably the best defensive player at Florida State. He was the only one to get. I mean, we talk about the Desir twins and stuff, but I mean, Earl Little was second team All ACC. If your 6th ranked guy was the best player in Florida State's defense, now, I mean, Bobby Bowden's not walking through that door, but still, that is a nice haul. I think you guys can see that there are some impressive dudes in the group. All right. I think that's a show for you people. Appreciate these guys stopping by. We'll have Mark's video up and ready to rock later today. In other words, have a good one. Matters of